Let's continue this conversation with House Oversight and Accountability Committee Chairman, Kentucky Congressman James Comer. Thank you, Congressman, for being with us. I just want to first start out with what the more progressive members of your committee are saying. What do they tell you?
Well, they don't want to talk about this issue because I think some of them are clearly ashamed that their party's been taken over by a pretty vocal anti-Semitic wing. This progressive wing has been always hostile towards Israel, but that hostility is spread to the United States, and we believe that it's fueling all of this unrest on college campuses and endangering the lives of Jewish students.
Congressman, I know you're going to follow the outside money that's coming in to provide, the tents or whatever it is we're seeing on campuses right now. But I look at the main money that props up all these students, all these professors, all these administrators, and all of that comes, almost all of it comes from the government, from your own backyard. I mean, are we going to get to the point here soon where we take a completely fresh look at how the federal government funds higher ed and maybe take a more radical step to getting government out of funding all this stuff?
I hope so. I mean, if you look at the overall state of higher education now, especially at the so-called elite universities, the cost to get a degree from these universities for the average student isn't worth it. And that's why you have such a movement from all these liberals all across America to try to bail out the excessive student loan debt that people have accumulated going to these elite schools that we believe are indoctrinating. They're indoctrinating their students towards a hatred towards Israel, towards a hatred towards Jewish people in general, and they're not providing the tools that the private sector needs when they look to hire the next generation of workers. So I've been very bearish on our public universities for a long time, and I certainly think that we should look at the funding and hold these universities accountable that receive so much money. Many of these universities where these protests are taking place receive the most federal dollars for research and development, things like that, and that's wrong. I don't think the average working American taxpayer should have to subsidize these universities for this type of behavior.
Congressman, can you comment for me on the hypocrisy that's out there right now? When you see protests like this, or as we saw during Black Lives Matter on the left, somehow the rhetoric is always, it's peaceful, it's fine, people have a right to free speech. But when it came to January 6th, for example, there are trials and people are getting arrested, and it was far more serious than being labeled a threat to democracy. Why is this not somehow a threat to our democracy as well?
The mainstream media has been overtaken by liberal activists. And in the liberal activists' minds who control the mainstream media, free speech does not apply to conservatives. If you're a conservative, you're not entitled to free speech. And what we're seeing now is the ultimate hypocrisy. We see this throughout the government. I've said for over a year now, the federal government, the bureaucrats, what I call the deep state bureaucrats, they've been taken over by left-wing extremists, whether it's in the EPA or the FBI, left-wing extremists that are applying two tiers of rules for conservatives versus liberals. We're seeing that with the way these protests are being taken out. These are all happening predominantly in big cities run by Democrat mayors, like here in Washington, D.C. with George Washington University, and they're not even wanting to provide police protection. That's something that we hope to change on the House Oversight Committee. I plan on going to George Washington University as soon as this interview is over with and meet with the university president and say help is on the way.
Well, we'd love to have you back after that conversation to get your updates. Congressman, thank you so much.